Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Born from Sin. Today's episode is called To My Child. I have two children. I have a daughter that was born in 1993 who is now in her 30s. And then I have another child, my youngest, who was born my daughter, but now identifies as non binary and prefers that I use the proper pronouns when I describe them. And I grew up always being a very non-judgmental person when it comes to, who you are, who you decide to be, who you feel like you are. I was raised by a mother who was not only schizophrenic, but when I became a teenager, introduced me to what being gay was about because she herself was a lesbian. So I grew up watching as my mom struggled for years with her identity and becoming comfortable with herself in her own skin. And I think that's probably why I try not to be judgmental when it comes to a person and their identity and who they feel that they truly are. I've never been in their shoes, but I can definitely relate to not feeling comfortable in your own skin. I can't imagine how much of a struggle it must be for anybody that doesn't feel comfortable in their own body. Someone that might be born male and feel female, or someone's born female and might feel male. And then you have someone like my child who doesn't identify being female or male. And that's why they consider themselves non-binary. And I've always tried my best to not identify my youngest child as her or she, because that's not how they see themselves. And it took me quite some time, I'm not going to lie, it took me quite some time to be able to adjust to that fact. And I have no issues with it, but sometimes I slip up because they were born my daughter. So I understand how sometimes it can upset them that I slip up because they don't identify as female. I think the thing that I'm having the hardest time with is trying to figure out a way to connect with them. As I've said in many of my podcasts before, I am not the best mother in the world. Never said I was. I will never, ever, ever say that I am the best parent in the world because I make mistakes. I have made many of mistakes with my children. Some of them not by choice. And again, at the age of 11, I became a mother to my mother. And it, I kind of got lost along the way when it came to my children because I had already been parenting my mom for so many years. When I first decided that I wanted to have children, I was 16 years old. I wanted nothing more than to have a family, something that I never had myself growing up, a stable family. Not that I didn't have a family, a stable family. I wanted my children to know, you know, what it was like to grow up in a home that was non-abusive, um, that was caring, that was encouraging, that wanted to see them achieve their goals, to know that they were loved and to know that they never had to worry about telling us anything. I wanted to give my children the future that I never had. I wanted to give them the love that I was missing. And at the age of 16, I figured that I was ready to have a family, that I was ready to have a child, not so much to be settled down and married, but I wanted to have a child. I wanted to love a child unconditionally. I wanted someone that would love me unconditionally because I never had that. And I figured having a child was my answer to unconditional love. So when I had my first child, I was married. I was newly married, and it was a rough pregnancy. And I honestly, after I had my daughter, I did not want to have any more children because it was a very traumatic experience for me. And then 6 years later, along comes my second child. At that point in time, I was living with her father, and he had three children from his previous marriage, and I already had my oldest daughter. So we went from being a family of six to being a family of seven. It was very, very overwhelming. And at first, I didn't care. I wanted nothing more than to have a family, and I was handed that. I was handed a large family, and it was overwhelming, but it was exciting at the same time because I had a bigger family than I anticipated, but there was so much love that I wanted to spread around. But unfortunately, those years weren't the greatest. The first 5 years of my youngest child's life, for me, were difficult because I lived in a very abusive situation. Their father was a very abusive man. So, unfortunately, a lot of my a lot of my memories that I have with my youngest child is unfortunately based on the abuse that I went through with their father. And just shortly before they turned 5 years old, I had given up my child to their father because he wasn't abusive towards his children, he was abusive towards me. I gave my child to their father thinking that I was doing the right thing. I gave both of my children to their fathers. Fortunately, my oldest daughter's father was a very understanding man, still is to this day. And he understood why I was giving our child over to him. He never put me down for it. He never second guessed why I was doing what I was doing. He was always very supportive in that way. We tried our very best to have an open communication when it came to raising our child. I still lived in the same city, so it was easier to still have access to her. My youngest child, however, different story. At the age of 4, almost 5, when I asked their father to take them in because I had to get them out of my home because I had woken up to my mother holding a butcher knife over me and my children. I sent them to go live with their dads. And it was probably the toughest decision I ever had to make as a parent at that point in time. I was giving up something that I've wanted to do forever. I was giving up unconditional love for a woman who continued to destroy my life with her schizophrenia, although she didn't mean to. And to this day, it still plays a very, very heavy toll on me. This past weekend, my youngest sent me a message through Facebook. And when I opened up the message, it was this big paragraph, all the bad things that I have done to them in their eyes. And I'm not trying to say that their feelings aren't legit, because they are. For example, one of the things that was mentioned was that when they graduated from high school, my husband and I did not go out there to their graduation. We were living in Ontario, they were living in British Columbia. It was something that was very important to them. And I could completely understand how us not being there felt like we were abandoning them. And for that, I'm sorry. It was never my intention. Because at that point in my life, I had literally just found my family that I had been missing from for years. And I made the decision in July to come out to New Brunswick, because we had been invited out here by family to come back out and see the rest of the family, because my mom had been missing from their lives for 40 years. I made the decision to come back home in July. My husband and I ended up taking a trip to New Brunswick in 2018. And I ended up meeting up with my family, and we were here for a week, and it was a great trip until it wasn't. Until I found out the real truth about my parents, and that they were biological brother and sister. We ended up going back home to Ontario, and in November of the same year, 2018, we took a trip out to British Columbia. So we did not make it for our youngest child's graduation, but we did go out there in November, and we got to spend an entire week with them. It wasn't the most pleasant visit because of the situation that we were in, but we made the best of it. We spent a lot of time together. We took little road trips together. We we tried our very best to spend as much quality time with them as we possibly could, because we didn't know when we'd have that opportunity again, because especially now, they live in BC and we live in New Brunswick. Like, we completely live on the other side of the country here from each other. So, and now, because I'm not able to fly anywhere because of my eye surgery, it makes it a little bit more difficult to have easy access to be able to go out there and visit. Another thing that they had mentioned to me was that I I seem to favor my oldest child over them. I don't. I had more time with my oldest child, so I had more memories to be able to share than I do with my youngest child, because my youngest child, after I gave them up to go live with their dad moved them to BC. As a matter of fact, their 5th birthday was the last birthday that they spent in Ontario. And I was supposed to be there for that birthday, and I had every single intention on being there. It was a holiday because they were born on May the 24th. So I was working in retail at the time, and the stores were closed. So it was the perfect opportunity. It was being set up at Bell Park, which is a beautiful park out in Sudbury, Ontario. And we were all going to gather there for their 5th birthday. Then I got a phone call letting me know that their birthday party had been changed to the following day, which meant that I wasn't going to be able to go because I had to work. I had nobody to cover my shift. So instead of being able to be at my child's birthday party, I sat there crying, looking at pictures instead. And again, it was something that disappointed my child. And I still feel very bad about that to this day, but I had no control over that. And I have to stop beating myself up over these things. I have tried many of times to open the communication back up. My problem is that I fail sometimes to continue keeping that communication open. And when I do try, I slip up and I accidentally post, my daughters instead of my daughter and my child. And then I end up getting a message from my youngest child, saying that I've offended them, and which, again, I did not mean to do. So then I stopped doing that stuff. And the other day, my oldest daughter shared a beautiful picture, and it was in around her birthday, and I shared it up in my stories on Facebook, and I put the song "Isn't She Lovely" on there, saying, "Isn't my daughter beautiful?" And this past weekend, I ended up getting a message from my youngest child saying that I favored my oldest daughter because I shared this post and I don't share anything about them. But when I do, you get upset. Oh, I I don't know what you want me to do. I feel very confused right now as to where to put myself. There's nothing on their Facebook they necessarily posted that I can share, like a new picture of themselves, or so that there's nothing for me to really share up in my storyline. It was that my oldest posted a picture of herself and I shared it. So again, I don't know where you want me to put myself. You keep saying that I'm the parent and you're the child. Well, here's the reality of it. You're no longer a child. You are an adult as well. And although, yes, I am your parent, and yes, I am your mother, and yes, I should sometimes be the one that steps up a little bit more, it doesn't mean that it's all on me. It's not only up to me to keep the communication going. They had created a group chat where myself, my husband, them, and my oldest daughter could be in a family group chat together. It was a fantastic idea and it was going very well until it wasn't. Everybody's lives got busy, and the only thing that was really being sent through that family chat was just a bunch of reels for, some of them were funny, don't get me wrong, they were awesome to watch, but because 3 out of 4 of us work, it makes it difficult for us to always be in that chat watching these reels. And because of the time difference between us and Ontario, which is where our daughter lives, our oldest child, there's an hour difference. We're an hour ahead. Now, for our child that lives in British Columbia, we are technically 4 hours ahead of them. So they're 4 hours behind us and 3 hours behind Ontario. So by the time that, the child in BC wakes up and starts their day, we're pretty much, halfway through our day kind of thing, or 3/4 of the way through our day, depending on what time they get up. I mean, if they get up at 11 a.m., noon their time, it's almost dinner time here. It's 4 p.m. So it's very hard sometimes to communicate with them because of, again, the time difference. And they seem to think that, just sending reels after reels after reels after reels is communicating. And I know it's your way to try to communicate, but try using words. Try saying hello. Hey, how's everybody doing? Instead of spamming the group with just a bunch of reels because you're bored at home. So the family group chat has gone down. My oldest has been very busy with her many of jobs that she's got going on. My husband works full time. I'm, doing my podcast. I'm a content creator on Facebook. So life is busy. We all have, responsibilities, and they are in a completely different situation. They do not work full time because they are on disability due to their physical and some of their mental issues. And again, I'm not judging. I understand what it's like living with a chronic illness, so I'm not here to judge. But at the same time, being a little more respectable of the fact that others do have a job, and that by throwing these reels, five, six, seven of them, and we're getting like bing, 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 bing on our phones while we're trying to work is a little distracting. And sometimes we have to shut it down, and then they get insulted. All right. Well, then we need to figure out a better way to communicate here. That's not just on me. I'm putting it forward. Please stop doing that. And let's actually talk. Let's actually, hey, how's everybody doing today? Let's actually sit down and check in the way that we should be. All of us. It's not just my responsibility anymore. I have tried over the years, as I said, to build up my bond with both of my children. And although it's nowhere near perfect by any means, I wish it was, I still struggle. The last year, although the communication has been a little bit better, there's still some things that I definitely could be doing better, that we all could be doing better. And I'm still trying to figure out who I am. I'm still healing from having to take care of my mom because of her schizophrenia. And it's a lot. And as I'm doing this, I'm trying to keep these communication doors open, but it's very, very hard. I'm very tired of being told that I'm a bad person by my child. They seem to forget that anytime they need help, especially when it comes to money, I'm usually the first one that they contact. And if I can help them, I do. Doesn't happen always, but I do my very, very best. And I would probably say 85% of the time, I do. They were living in BC a few years ago, and things were getting really tough for them. They need to get out of the situation that they were in. We paid out of pocket for their ticket to get them from British Columbia to New Brunswick. Picked them up at the airport, moved them in with us, had a whole room set up for them, gave them a roof over their head, food in their stomach, no bills to worry about. We asked them to be responsible enough to clean up their room. They are an adult. We're no longer 2 years old. We are three adults living together, and to get along, the place needs to be clean so that we can all live comfortably. They complained that they didn't feel like they were involved enough, and I was trying to start a cooking show slash maybe get a recipe book put together that we could do together. And because they were still adjusting to the time difference, um, it was a little bit more difficult to do that. And about a month, I'd say, in, they were still, staying up late and just doing their own thing, and they were still on BC time, and then they would get upset because they'd get up and I had already started making cinnamon buns without them, or it was like 11, 12 o'clock our time. And I understand that adjusting from, one time zone to another is very, very difficult. It really messes with the mind, so I get it. But you can't be mad at me because you weren't awake. I can't stop living my life and doing what I need to do because you're sleeping. I'm not going to put my whole world on pause until you get up at noon. And then it takes you a couple of hours to focus, like it does anybody else when you get up in the morning. And now it's 2 o'clock, and I have to start thinking about what I'm going to be making for dinner, not what treats I should be making for the week. So, if you want to hang that over my head, that's fine. But again, take a look at the big picture because it's not all on me. We tried our very best to support them while they were here, by eating healthier and, you know, cooking together and spending time together. Unfortunately, it was winter time that when they came here, so there wasn't a whole lot that you could go up and explore because it's winter. It was like 40 below outside, so nobody wants to be trying to walk on the ocean floor when it's 40 below outside. That's stuff that you do in the spring and the summer. We didn't get the opportunity to take them out and about as much as we would have liked to. And we were all kind of stuck inside. That was just in and around the time where COVID was starting to become a thing. And, again, things were being shut down. So it made it very difficult that we were isolated and didn't get the opportunity to do things or the things that we would have liked to have done with them. And it became very overwhelming for them, um, being that they lived in such a large community um, out in BC, coming to a smaller community in New Brunswick that legitimately is like living in the 80s. It's like going back in time completely compared to some of the advancements that she's used to, like having a subway system. They don't have that here. We have a very poor transit system, to say the least. So, getting around and being able to meet new people is not as easy here as what it is there. And especially during the beginning of COVID and everything being shut down, there was, you had to stay within your 10. And so it made it very difficult. And I think that they became even more isolated, and that wasn't a good thing for them, and they wanted to go back to BC, and it broke my heart, really did. And as much as I was sad to see them go, I understood. And again, the communication broke down hard. I felt like it didn't matter what I did to help this child, it was never good enough. They moved here with little to nothing, and we set them up with as much as we possibly could. We gave them, you know, we paid for their ticket here, we paid for their ticket back. We paid for all their stuff while they were here. We we provided food, we provided shelter, we provided hydro, the internet. We didn't ask for anything other than for them to keep their room clean and to help out. And that was just too difficult. They felt like I owed them, but the only thing I owed them was to be a parent, and that's what I was being, and they didn't like that. So, although we went above and beyond and made sure that they had, the proper winter attire because it's not something that they had to use out in British Columbia, we went out and bought them, brand new jacket, brand new boots, hats, gloves, clothes, underwear, socks, shoes, you name it. We went above and beyond. We bought a bed so they had something to sleep in, and they still up and left. So every little time that I get kicked by this child, it makes it very difficult for me to try and open that bond up again because I don't know what they want. You don't want me to post about you. You want me to post it. And then you get jealous when I post about your sister or about your stepdad, for that matter. You're upset because you're engaged to be married. And I had mentioned that I didn't see it as something that we might be able to do. I didn't say it was something that we weren't going to do. But as I explained in the message that I sent back to you, for us to be able to get out to British Columbia, to be there for your wedding, that's not even yet planned. We have no idea when this is even going to happen. This is just, you're engaged at the moment, and congratulations to you for finding the person that you're going to spend the rest of your life with, because that's awesome. You deserve nothing but the best. You deserve happiness. You deserve to feel love. You deserve to feel not abandoned anymore because of what you went through from me and from your dad. But I think that sometimes you blow things out of proportion that haven't even happened yet. And because I said that it might not be something that we'll be able to do, only because of our current situation, it would take us a week to drive out there because we can't fly. I cannot fly because of my eye surgeries that I've had. That being said, it would take us a week to drive from New Brunswick out to British Columbia. We would have to stop and get gas. We would have to get food. We would have to rent hotels to get sleep in between. We would have to put our pets for that time in a shelter because we have really nobody here that's going to take care of them or stay at our place for 2 weeks to watch our house. Once we get out there, we'd be able to spend a couple of days, which would be fantastic. We would absolutely make the most of the time that we had out there with you. Then it would take us another week to drive back. Again, hotels, food, all that expense. And during that time, we would have no income because my husband would have to book time off work. And because they pay out his holiday pay on his paycheck on a regular basis, there's no holiday pay. So that's 2 weeks of no income. Because I work from home now. I work for myself. So the only steady income that we have coming in is my husband's. So at this present time, it would not be feasible for us to be able to make it out there for their wedding. But we have no idea when that wedding is even taking place. And you're upset with me because I'm being realistic about my current situation. I don't know what to tell you. That that's on you. I really don't know what to tell you. You keep throwing these things back in my face, and I just don't know. I don't know what else to do. I don't know what to do to make you happy, to make you feel like you belong. I don't know what's going to help you feel less abandoned. I don't know. I have tried over and over and over again to be there for you on many of different levels. It was never good enough. And to this day, it's still not. So, the last part of your message was that you were going to do what's best for you and take care of yourself and put yourself first. And I want to congratulate you on that because that's exactly what you should be doing. And during that growth, if you feel that you ever want to reach out to me again because you closed the door, you blocked me on Facebook. Didn't block me on Messenger yet, but you did block me on Facebook, and that's fine. You do you. You do what you need to do to heal. And I'll always be here. My door will always be open. That Messenger is always open. But you need to stop thinking that I owe you, because I don't. I don't. I have done so many things. I have gone above and beyond to try to rectify what I have done to you, and yet you still keep pushing. You still keep pushing me away. So, you know what? That's on you now. That's no longer on me. I am taking that responsibility off of my shoulders because I, as a parent, need to be able to heal myself as well so that I can be a better parent to you. And I shouldn't have to shower you with money for you to see that I love you. If you can't see that from me trying to share a message that I'm proud about my children, or I slip up and say my daughters, well, that's your problem. That's not my problem anymore. You identify as non-binary. And again, I will do the very best to respect your wishes and to call you by your proper pronouns out of respect. This question is for anybody else out there that is non-binary. Maybe you can shed some light on this subject for me because I'm at a very big crossroads mentally with this part here and I struggle. My child identifies as non-binary. I have no problem with that. My child, however, continues to want to have a family. I have no problem with that either. I would love nothing more than to be a grandparent. Love nothing more. Unfortunately for them, they have had a few miscarriages, and it's very heartbreaking. I've never myself been in that situation, so I don't know what it's like, but hearing that, no, you're not going to have a grandchild is also very crushing to me mentally. I don't hold any responsibility on them for that. That is just nature's way sometimes of telling us that we're just maybe not ready, and or that our bodies are not strong enough at that point in time. And I hope that they never feel responsible, because I can't imagine what it must like to be them in that situation. I have asked my youngest child to only let me know if they are pregnant when they're actually pregnant. They tend to get very excited about being possibly pregnant and, continuing sending me messages. And a lot of times it's to borrow money or whatever because they want to get a pregnancy test or whatever. And after a while, oh, no, I'm not pregnant. Oh, no, I'm not pregnant. Oh, no, I'm not pregnant. After a while, it takes a toll on me mentally. So I asked them to not tell me that they're pregnant unless they absolutely 100% for sure know that they are. I didn't say that I didn't want to know about their pregnancy. I said that I didn't want to know about it until they were 100% sure, so that we could grow together from that. I was very heartbroken, and it was taking a mental beating on me finding out, oh, no, you're not a grandparent. Oh, no, 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 sorry, no, no, sorry, no, sorry. So I put a stop to it. And I think they might have interpreted that as me not wanting to know that they're pregnant. And that's not what I said. What I said was that I didn't want to know about the pregnancy until it was verified by a doctor. It was very hard for me to constantly hear, I might be pregnant, I might be pregnant, I might be pregnant. So, my real question, for somebody that's non-binary, that states that it freaks them out to be a female when when they have their menstrual cycle every month, and that they're reminded that they were born female, although they no longer identify that way, and they want to have children. I think the thing that confuses me the most, not the fact that they want to have children, but how do you identify as non-binary when you need to be female to birth a child? Not to have a child, to birth a child. So sometimes I wonder maybe if they are still struggling with their identity. And I'm hoping that maybe someone else that's out there that is non-binary, other than my child, can shed some kind of light on that for me. How do they identify as non-binary, but want nothing more than to birth a child, which is unfortunately, it's only a female thing. You can't be a male and give birth, natural birth to a child. You need to be a female to do that. So are they struggling? Like I don't know, that part's very confusing for me. And if anybody could shed some light on that, I would really appreciate it, because maybe it's just the way that I'm thinking. And again, I'm trying my best to open up this communication with my child, but I keep banging into a wall. It doesn't matter what I do. It doesn't matter what I try. It doesn't matter how much I help financially or non-financially, or it doesn't matter. Nothing is ever good enough for this person. And I'm very, very tired of being treated like an option to them only when they need me. So communication is a two-way street. And to my child, I hope that you're putting yourself first goes amazingly well for you. I hope that you discover the you that you want to be. I hope that during that discovery that you're provided with lots of support and love and encouragement, and that you find whatever it is that you're seeking, that you're missing, to fill that void in your life. And always know that my door will always be open to you when you decide that you're going to stop beating me up and putting me down and start noticing all the things that I have done for you. Until then, we'll talk later.